All right. Welcome to back to Blazing Cat for Fridays, where every Friday I do a cold review of BCF's latest posts. Please like and share this video. It helps to drive the algorithm. I don't know about you, but this has been a busy week, especially with my gardening, cooking, and canning channel that you should be able to see right here on my. There we go. That's a lot better. Didn't need to see that other channel there. Right. Where you can go every day and get an update on my growth that's happening, and maybe get some cooking and canning tips along the way. Bad times are coming, folks. Get your garden in, and if you have any land to sow, I recommend squash because it keeps a long time without refrigeration, and if you cook it long enough, you don't need teeth to eat it. Anyways, if you saw the loop on intro on Rumble, that's from three early videos assembled about 15 years ago from older footage available on my Rumble channel. And I'd like to thank BCF for posting these vids of mine on his site. And all of you who take the time to watch, it is the highest viewership I get, and it warms my heart. All right, so let's go. Let's go to Blazing Cat for Fridays and see what the page has to show. Remember, this is a cold reading. This is brand new to me, and hopefully it's brand new to you. All right. Pickering boy, 13, in custody after sadistic random slaying of elderly woman. A 13-year-old boy is in custody, and a shelter in place has been lifted in North Pickering after what police believe was a sadistic and cowardly random slaying of an elderly woman. The Durham Regional Police Tactical Support Unit made the arrest Thursday evening without incident, and cops said charges are pending after an hours-long manhunt in the Fairpoint Road, Lynn Heights Drive area north of Finch Avenue, where officers have been called about 3 p.m. to respond to an unknown trouble call. Now, there's a note here at the bottom. Note, the perp's identity is substantiated at this time. The internet is saying he has been peer identified on social media. I suspect this whole episode will be hushed up, just like the authorities denied the Danforth shooter's motive was Islamist jihad. Well, crime is definitely on the way up in Canada, and it is directly tied to the amount of unvetted immigration that we have. And I'm not saying that that's what caused this situation here, but we know the stats don't lie. Data never lies. Russian officer behind Mariupol strike dies in suicide bombing. A senior Russian official, a Russian military officer accused of ordering deadly airstrikes in the Ukraine city of Mariupol, has been killed in an apparent suicide bombing in southern Russia. Tsar Gertziev, a major in Russian armed forces, died in a grenade blast in Stavropol, a city more than 700 miles from Moscow, according to SHOT, a Telegram channel with links to the security services. Geez, I wonder if BCS putting in all the Russian words for me on Friday to read. All right. Participant of the war against Ukraine and the first deputy mayor of Russian city of Stavropol, 29-year-old Tsar Gerstev died from a grenade explosion. 29-year-old mayor? Oh, that's rather young for a mayor. Good for him. This monster led part of the strikes on Mariupol. He implemented his developments in technology of missile war. All right, we click on this, it'll take us to X. We won't do that. I'll let you guys check that story out on your own. Brown. In Ontario, some helpful ideas for Premier Doug Ford. What's this caption here? We got, this is what? Oh, yes, this is McDonald. John A. McDonald boarded up in Toronto, and he is saying, there better be a damn good reason for this board. Ah, yes. With the statue of Sir John A. Macdonald set to be unboxed in Ontario, better must be expected of Ford's semi-conservatives going forward. Semi-conservatives? Yeah. They're progressives. They're not conservatives. After 5 long and shameful years, a 3-term Conservative majority is finally unboxing Sir John A. Macdonald's on the front lawn of Queen Park. These conservatives, if they were conservatives, why would they still be getting their prosecutors to go after Tamara Lynch and Barber, trying to get his truck? Yeah, they're not conservatives at all. Everyday Ontarians helped pressure them into doing the right thing. Some were even arrested for it. But now, better must be expected of a Ford government drawing frequent unflattering comparisons to the legacies of Dalton McGuinty, Kathleen Wynne, and the federal Liberals. Well, know them by what they do. I've always said it. They can call themselves anything they want, but if they act like unconservatives, then they are not conservatives. Psaki allows Comey to compare right-wing podcasts to Islamist extremists. No, that's right. We're all just as extremist as the Islamists. That's why I spent 38 years in the forces. That's why I went overseas to fight the fuckers. Yeah, I'm just like the Islamists. Comey, evil man. Last Friday, Democratic press secretary turned MSNBC host Jen Psaki had on former FBI Director James Comey to talk about his new book, a fictional story that centered on right-wing influencer who directed his followers to commit violence. It always has to be a fictional story, doesn't it? They always have to make shit up. Psaki used biased questions and responses to validate Comey's outrageous claims that right-wing podcasters were like Islam extremists and were white supremacist adjacent, not just in his book, but in real life. I think people like Comey are stupid adjacent. Quebec passes bill requiring immigrants to adopt shared values. Well, too bad we didn't do that for Canada. Everybody thinks that as soon as you get into Canada and you step on the ground, the magic dirt will somehow automatically change them into Canadians with the same values that we all grew up and got exposed to. But of course, that's not true. People who grew up in other countries that don't share our values, that didn't get inculcated with those same ethics, will not practice those when they get to Canada. That's why you get people here who have no compunctions at all about committing crime if they can get away with it, because for them that's licensed because that's the way they were brought up. The Quebec legislature has passed a bill requiring immigrants to embrace the common culture of the province. Remember Bill 101 being passed in 78-ish or so before they had their first kick at the cat at separating in Quebec. And that's that language bill right there. I mean, that was supposed to preserve the culture. What happened to that? Newcomers to the province must adhere to shared values, including gender equality, secularism, and protection of the French language. Well, there you go, boys. That's your problem right there. Whenever you put secularism before faith, then your culture self implodes. Because without faith, you don't have any ethics or morals that are built on faith to push your culture forward. And if you base it on secularism, which is not based on anything of substance, it just says that everybody's the same. And you can see it right there. Diversity. Oh, gender equality. Yes. Science doesn't understand that biology made us different, men and women. There's a difference. Our genders will never be equal. They will always be separate, and they will each have their superior qualities from the other. Men will always be stronger than women, and women will always be stronger mentally than men. It's just the way that science and biology, it's just the way biology made them. So there is no equality. We have to understand that. Now, there are certain things, of course, in society that are equal, regardless of man or woman, but they just think that continuing to pander using these diversity, equity, inclusion terms is going to get them ahead. It's not. But then again, they've brainwashed most of the kids in their education system to believe all this stuff. So it hasn't worked out for them so far. Law is Quebec's answer to Canadian model of multiculturalism that promotes cultural diversity. Well, how can you protect your culture if you're promoting other cultures? No, if you want to protect your culture, you have to make your state unicultural, right? You can't champion cultural diversity and then say, oh no, but our culture needs to be preserved while you're championing all the rest of them. Morons. Charlevoix, feds still think food industry ends at the farm gate. With pomp of the opening ceremonies behind us, Canada's 45th Parliament is finally getting to work. A new government is in place. complete with a new Minister of Agriculture, a throne speech, and a single, somewhat generic mandate letter. Yet, for the agri-food sector, it all feels underwhelming. And it should. If anybody's been following the story with the ostriches out in BC, what they want to do to them there will affect all the farms because they're basically just saying, we've decided that we tested 2 year animals using a PCR cycle system that they ran high enough to get the result that they wanted. And then they came back and said, no, we got to destroy our whole herd because it got avian flu. And of course, they've all recovered from it and they'll have natural immunity. But that's what they do. And then they come in and they destroy the animals. And then they say, no problem, we'll just recompense you. So you're expecting this farm to go back and then restart a farm with these animals that live to be like decades old. You got some birds that are over 40 years old on that farm. You can't just start fresh the next year and then start growing some, purchasing some new animals and start farming again with that. And then 2 years after that, CFIA comes along and then destroys all the animals again just because they said so, just because they can, even though it's like following science whatsoever. So it's not just the birds, it's all the other farmers because now at any moment, CFIA can just go in, destroy all the animals, and they do this to demoralize and to destroy the farms so that big agri can come in and buy up those farms and set up industrial farms. That's what they're doing. That's the long-term plan here to demoralize what few farmers are left, make it very difficult for them, and having this sword of Damocles over their head at any time where they just come in and destroy all their farm animals just because they said so, and you have no recourse. You can't even do anything about it. Now, you may have heard in the news that they want to, was it Dr. Oz offered his farm, his ranch for all the birds to be taken from BC to save them. But they can't go because the farm is under quarantine, so they can't remove any animals. Anyway, um, there's nothing there for the farmers. They will continue to exploit the farmers, and as we know, the industrial carbon tax will continue to apply their CO2, even though they said they want to remove it, but they're not going to be sitting in Parliament. So how are they going to get anything done? That's enough of that. Anyways, don't men, start that again. Dead men don't kill. German feminists ignore link between immigration and rising crime. Ah, yes, chickens for KFC and all that, man. Recent attempts to clamp down on violence against women have been criticized for curving around the significant impact of uncontrolled borders. A banner held by two leftist activists at a vigil for a woman stabbed to death in Fulda, central Germany, last Monday read, Dead men don't kill. Wow. Is the left finally coming to its senses regarding immigration? Only time will tell. Why does the New York Times oppose white civil rights? I prefer Michael Savage's term for the New York Times, also known as the New York Slime. On May 25, 2025, the New York Times published a piece by Erica Green who covers the White House and reported from Washington titled, Trump, Civil Rights Prosecutions Should Help White Men. With the subtitle, Administration Officials Pick and Choose Which Civil Rights Protections They Want to Enforce and for Whom. My head nearly exploded reading this thing. The featured photograph at the top of the article showing President Trump walking towards Marine One has the following caption. President Trump has turned to civil rights protections in recent weeks to remedy what he sees as disenfranchisement of white men. Yeah, and right. So I don't know if you've noticed this at all, but a lot of the policies the Trump administration have been doing have been targeting specifically diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're going after and destroying woke culture. And because, as we all know, and I've said this plenty of times, when it comes to equity, it only means that some people are more equal than others. And the ones that are always less equal than others, you got it. That would be men, and especially if they're white. Whizzle. Hey, CBC. About that propaganda. That's CBC reporter Andrew Chang's assessment of Trump's bully strategy to gain economic advantages using tariffs. Through contiguous episodes of streaming program Chang hosts called About That, the CBC has launched a veritable propaganda war against the US government, coated in a veneer of experts and tricked out with a speckling of science. I haven't listened to the CBC since I got back from Bosnia. Um, I found myself just yelling at the radio because of their constant stream of propaganda. And well, it's too bad some people have to listen to CBC to put these articles up. Turns your brain to mush. Reliance on renewables makes widespread blackout nightmare more likely. Ah, yes. Look at that, eh? The old windmills that don't even make their 20-year life expectancy, that we don't have a disposable method for all the toxic materials that go into making these items, especially the blades. I worked on helicopters, and the amount of work that goes into creating blades, very similar technology that they're using. They weather, and they need constant maintenance and protection. But they didn't work that into the maintenance of these items when they set them up. So of course they fail and they just toxify the soil. And let alone, I haven't taken the vibration analysis courses. The vibrations are not good. They're not good for humans. They're not good for the animals that are around in the area. And the turbidity that it causes way down deep inside just contaminates the water table. Just absolute stupidity. As soon as they put those up and they found, they always ignore the science. I'm not going to get into this. A massive blackout left 55 million people in Europe in the dark, just as renewables peaked at 78% of grid power, exposing the fragility of unreliable energy dependence. This is all by design, wasn't it? As they managed the decline, put in an unreliable energy system to accelerate the depopulation. Imagine taking the subway to work when the train comes to a sudden halt halfway between scheduled stops. You pull out your smartphone to go online and see what the problem is, but you have no reception, no cell signal, no internet. Hours later, rescue workers arrive to extract you from your fellow passengers from the stalled train. You make your way to the street in hopes of taking a taxi or an Uber, but without your phone apps and with credit card machines inoperable, you are forced to search for an ATM only to discover those aren't working either. Yes. Just as everyone wants to get rid of hard cash and push digital currencies. The Wages of COVID, Part 1. Why did the government and mainstream media collude to discredit alternative, successful COVID treatments? Well, we know why. We know why they did that because they have to push the jibby jab. They had to push it. They had to push it so they can make their money and do the biggest wealth transfer in the history of the planet. The COVID pandemic was and remains one of the largest involuntary wealth transfers in history, which is why, in trying to get to the bottom of what was done in the name of saving us from the ravages of the virus, it is best to follow the money. For in the law, as in life, the money trail will inevitably lead to the truth. Recall that as the COVID virus spread throughout our panicked nation, our government and its associated medical authorities instructed us to shelter in place. Well, anybody who's watched anything on my channel will know that I've covered a lot of stuff on the COVIDity stupidity, especially what is still happening in the Canadian Armed Forces. And if anyone who's been watching the news this week, you know that, FDA and CDC have both come out and said, oh, yeah, those Pfizer and Moderna shots, not good for you. Yeah, way increased risk of issues with myocarditis and pericarditis, microscarring throughout the heart, along with all the other side effects that are coming. And now they're finally admitting, yeah, it's no good. Now, of course, in the States, they've done a lot of leaps and bounds in getting these injurious, deadly mRNA gene therapies rebranded as a vaccine, right, to get those out of being necessary to be taken, especially for their own military. But meanwhile, in Canada, you got it. CDS Directive 003 still requires 3 COVID mRNA jabs when you join the forces. Even as this information comes out, and you know what? They're going to keep doing it. And again, this kind of loops right back into the BC ostrich thing, right? Where they're actually getting immune science from the yolks in the eggs. It's part of the research that they're doing because the flock has been exposed to SARS type viruses, and they're doing something with the eggs. But of course, Big Pharma doesn't want that, which is why the CFIA hitmen want to go in there and kill those birds because they have to keep the scam going. And yes, and follow the money. All these things, we were all saying these things back in 2020, in 2021. And as all of us were being punted out of the military, 10% of us, we were reading all this stuff. We're like, no, people are taking this jab and dropping. We're not fucking doing this thing, and it's experimental. Your risk benefit analysis is not there, and you coerce people when the side effects sheet was blank. The yeah, yeah, they're going to keep denying and denying right until their dying day or until they're thrown in jail. And we knew this from the start. We knew this from the start. They're hanging on just long enough, hoping that everyone they gave the shot to is going to expire before they can get dragged to court. Proud country cannot keep its prime minister in a box. Well, apparently we can keep him pretty rich with two pensions, according to the last prime minister that came through. Sir John A. Macdonald has been in a box, literally and figuratively, for years. A statue of Canada's first prime minister on the lawn of Ontario's legislature was encased with hoarding after it was vandalized in 2020, and it has remained like that for the past 5 years. No one knew what was in the box, but we pretended not to see it. The same type of fiction we abet when a child playing hide and seek believes that he disappears when he covers his own eyes. It was a timorous half measure by those clearly wary of running afoul of one group or another, and so we boxed up our history and left it there, assuming that the hoarding would be less ugly than the public's reaction to an actual decision. And BCF says down here, trust me, Canada's weasel politicians are proud of boxing McDonald and all its variants. I just remembered of a movie, was it almost 30 years ago? Boxing Helena? It's all kind of creepy. Yeah. You, hiding your history and destroying your history. It's, have these people not read 1984? He who controls the past controls the future. Footage shows the moment Swiss village is buried by a falling glacier. Oh yes, I've been following that story all week. Every week, as the side of the mountain broke off, a massive piece of the mountain just broke off, and then slowly came down and started to settle onto the glacier. Now, of course, every year the glacier melts a little bit. You get it running downstream. Very nice little picturesque Swiss village. And but as the mountain was breaking, you can go back and look up some of these videos, like boulders are being shot out from the side of the mountain right into the glacier into the other side of the mountain, just from the compression as the mountain started to fall. And it was inevitable. The weight and gravity eventually pulled the whole thing down. Let's see if this plays. Now the village has been evacuated for more than a week now because they could see this coming. Kind of odd. It's kind of odd that with everything that's happening, and especially the way the sun is going and the increase in tectonic activity and volcanoes, as we seem to be approaching a disaster cycle, and now chunks of mountains are falling off. Very interesting. Oh, here's another video. Oh, okay, that's taking us to X. Let's not do that. Let's just carry on with the stories here. Scotland. The police think you're a Nazi if you believe in biology. I'm not surprised. It's too bad, eh? The Scots are responsible for so many inventions, especially in the 1800s. Yeah, I love this story. All right, if you have ever wondered why the police ever thought it acceptable to investigate a journalist for her gender critical beliefs, arrest a woman for misgendering or record a non-crime hate incident for a trans skeptical limerick, then an internal document circulated by police Scotland may offer a clue. Apparently, some officers genuinely believe that people who believe in biology are really just like Nazis. The UK is lost. It's done. It's toast. I mean, stick a fork in it and turn it over. It's done. I can't wait to see what the YouTuber from Scotland's going to say about this. College of Teachers act against teacher for denouncing Hamas. For years, radicals have been trying to insert themselves into our education system. These are the people who teach that 2 plus 2 equals racist. I love that. That's not a joke. It's something that happened. Now, our education system and the organizations that support it are being used as ways to bring the conflict in the Middle East into the classroom. Our education system in Canada and here in this province in Ontario has gone to the dogs. They're sexually grooming your children, as you can see with the books that are available in children's libraries. And they are exposing them to radical politics rather than teaching them the political history of the country. This is unacceptable and it's going on. But, it's up to the parents. If they're not going to do anything about this, then we're just going to end up with another useless, lost generation. Well, we are at the end of the page. And yes, and as usual, it's taken us close to about half an hour just to get down to the bottom of the first page. We don't usually get into the second page at the end of this, and we're not going to do that today. I'd like to thank all of you who came out today to watch this video. If you're watching it live, I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There'll be some links added to this video once it's up. And if you have a chance, go on over to the other cooking channel, and there's a video up there for first breakfast, and there'll be some other recipes and some cannings coming along the way as we grow throughout the summer. Once again, I'd like to thank BCF for hosting this video, and we'll see you next time. Have a great weekend, guys.